Arsenal 2, Manchester United 0. And I ain't even gonna lie, man. That game wasn't the greatest watch. I had it obviously side by side with the Liverpool game, man. Not gonna lie, from most of the bits that I watched, there wasn't too many exciting moments of the game. I think the second half opened up a little bit, but we are going to get into some of the details and just the general agendas that I've kind of been set that I'm seeing on Twitter and just in the football content creation world at the moment. But listen, before we get into it again, make sure you subscribe to the channel. You know what I'm saying? Hit the like button as well. That's very important. Make sure you do that. It's just down there somewhere. And we're very close to 13,400, man. So let's get there. Listen, let's start with one thing, obviously. Let's start with Man United. I ain't gonna lie. Man United, yes, they lost the game, but I don't think it's I don't think it was a poor performance from them. I think they frustrated Arsenal, especially in the first half. Genuinely, I think Arsenal were restricted for pretty much no shots on target, or one. Like, I generally felt like Man United knew what they wanted to do. They had a plan. And I think Amorim set them up in a way where they weren't going to concede very easily. But at the same time, for me, his selection going forward is what I had an issue with. That's what I'm going to be honest with, innit? I think starting Mount, Rasmus, and Garnacho, and then benching Ahmad and Rashford, for me, I just don't think they were the right decisions. I don't know. That's just the way I look at it. I look at Arsenal. I look at Manchester United's creative players, and I look at maybe Xerxes, even though he hasn't had a great start to the season. He is more one of their more technical players. I look at Kobe Mainoo as one of their technical players, even though he was suspended for today. I look at Ahmad as, for me, I think he's their best attacker. I think he's their brightest spark. And also, Rashford's been in decent form. I'd say the last 2 or 3, 4 games, Rashford, since Amorim's come in, and even throughout Ruud's time, I think Rashford's been okay. So I look at those players and I think, cool, if you're going to go play Arsenal away from home at the Emirates, you know what I'm saying, a winter night in London, North London, I feel like you have to at least play one of those players. And Amorim's opted for none of them. He's opted for none of those players. Like, listen, from the midfield to the defense, I had no issue with his setup. I think he was fine. I was impressed with Maguire. I was impressed with Leniero when he came on. You know what I'm saying? And I was all right with that. From what I saw anyways. But in terms of going forward, I don't think United really posed any threat to Arsenal. And that's also a credit to Arsenal, where I don't think they really had to get out of first gear either. It wasn't a good first half from Arsenal, but they didn't really have to get out of first gear either. And then, moving into the second half, obviously, when the set pieces come in now, again, 2 cheap corners given away. Rashford, obviously, we know what he's trying to do. He's trying to flick the ball up and go long, try and set up an attack. He slips, ends up in a corner. Of course, that's when Saliba scores. Same kind of thing with Garnacho, gives away a corner. You know what I'm saying? And obviously, Arsenal score. Listen, here's my opinion on the set piece thing. Set pieces are part of the game. And if you have a great set piece record, then why don't you use it to your advantage? It's a great trump card for when you're being frustrated and you need a breakthrough. And, every goal counts, whether it's the tap in, whether it's a screamer, whether it's an amazing passage of play. You know what I'm saying? I feel like what I learned is that Arsenal can win the game in multiple ways. And I think it's as simple as that. I'm not going to sit here and castrate Arsenal for winning a top 6 fixture. A top 6 clash with United. Yes, albeit not a great United, but bro, they won. They kept a clean sheet. You move. Next game. You put pressure on Liverpool. Pressure on us. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, the gap's still 7 points, but you know what I mean? Like, they've closed the gap by 2 points. It matters. These things kind of matter. Okay, say they didn't have the set pieces and they draw this game 0-0. They're in a worse position. So the way I see it is that it's just not a game where you look at loads of performances for Arsenal in terms of like they were scintillating going forward, because they weren't. Odegaard woke up in the second half. He is human after all, but he woke up in the second half. But in the first half, he was kind of anonymous. He was frustrated. He wasn't given the space. Fernandes and Ugarte done very well in those central positions. But you look in the second half, you look at the delivery, and it's absolutely spot on. And you have to give credit to Deckers, man, holding it down in that 6th position. Ever since he's come out the 8, he's been phenomenal. And the 6th position, ball winning and moving the ball on is what he does best and what he needs to be doing. And that's the best role that I feel like Arteta needs to keep playing him and not kind of moving him forward into this 8 position. You know, that's just the way I see it. And I feel like it was a great game for Kiwior. Kiwior and Zinchenko have come in. Obviously, unfavorable kind of players at the moment when it comes to Arsenal bringing in players that are in and around the squad when the first teamers aren't there. And I think Zinchenko and Kiwior especially was very, very good, very astute, very good on the ball, very calm, very cool and collected. And I've said this a few times. I think genuinely that Zinchenko is one of those players that he's a very specific to how a manager wants to play. And yes, he's not good defensively, but if you can utilize and manipulate the ball and have at least 75 to 80% possession in the game, Zinchenko is a good asset to have because he knows how to break the lines. He's someone who, in my opinion, is very intelligent on the ball. And if you get him playing and you can kind of cover his deficiencies by having the ball more, he is a decent asset to have. Now, again, does that mean playing game in, game out against the Premier League's trickiest wingers? No. Use him sparingly, and obviously, it kind of depends how you're playing as well. As I said, it's very integral to know how you're going to play. For me, I'd say the man of the match was probably Rice for me. Probably Rice. But again, no Gabriel. You got to give these guys a big shout out to keeping a clean sheet and to Kiwi or Saliba. Obviously, scores with his bum in it. Like, is what it is. One of them. Obviously, it's a good header back from, I believe it was Partey who heads it back across for it to happen. But yeah, you know, Ahmad came on and was tricky and tried. Rashford, I feel like, if I'm honest, Rashford looked like his body language just wasn't great when he came on. It's almost like he was just annoyed that he didn't start and he didn't kind of put that into his ability to win or draw or claw United back into the game, if I'm being honest. Big save from Raya. Big save from Raya as well. Looked like a camera save, but when you actually watch it back, that was a crazy save. That goes in, it's 1-1. Maybe the game gets shut off and, you know, Arsenal drop points. So you got to look at that. You got to look at the importance and you got to look at it and go, you know what? Credit to Raya. Credit to Timber, opens the scoring. Timber's been a very consistent right back for Arsenal / left back as well when he's played there. And I think he's only going to get better. He's done very well this season. Had a few, I think maybe the Tottenham game is probably the worst I saw him. And even then, it wasn't that bad. So, yeah, man, listen, let me know who your man of the match was. For me, it was probably Rice. Comfortably Rice, in my opinion. And I guess Arsenal move on. But for Man United, I don't think it's bad on paper, but the performance isn't something to be annoyed about. I think there's positives to take, but at the same time, 11th place on paper, it's not looking good. Derby coming up, they've got a game in between then. It's just, yeah, that's my opinion. But Amorim will have positives. Arsenal will keep marching on, I guess. And then we'll see what happens next week. Take care and we'll see you soon, man. Like, subscribe, and let me know who your man in the match was.